I do apologize for filming this vertically. I originally filmed this to be a YouTube short, but it lasted a little bit longer than I was expecting to, so I decided to make it just a full YouTube video. So I just want to apologize for that up front. Daredevil is so back, guys. Like, this episode, the season finale for season 1 of Daredevil Born Again has just got me so hyped. Daredevil is back. We have Daredevil back, Punisher back, Karen back. Unfortunately, Foggy isn't back. Bullseye's back, though, in the last episode. We got a name drop for Ray Nadeem in this episode. Just a brief one at the very beginning of the episode. We did get a little bit of an explanation on how Fisk was able to get released from prison after season 3. They didn't go into details. They just brought up some kind of corruption. I guess some FBI corruption case that released a lot of prisoners. I don't think we've heard about that previously. If I'm wrong, let me know. But at least it's some kind of explanation. I thought it had to do with something with a snap or blip or whatever. But there's some other kind of explanation that they have in the works. This episode continues to up the ante and completely sets up the second season so well. And just these past 2 episodes just feel so much different than the rest of the season. Not to say the rest of the season was bad. I actually enjoyed the rest of the season pretty well, honestly. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, except for episode 7. I didn't really like episode 7. But the rest of the season I really enjoyed really well. But these last two episodes have just been on another level, in my opinion, and just feel so much more like the Netflix show. It's not perfect still, but it's so much more like the Netflix show. We got Karen back in this episode. She honestly brings so much to the show, not just in terms of story, but she grounds Matt in a way that none of these other side characters that have been in the show so far have been able to. And I'm excited to see what they do with her in the second season, because she is such a strong character. With the way she's able to dig into information and find things out is so great. She's going to be a very, very strong side character for Matt in the second season. Honestly, I hope she's in a lot of the second season now that she's back. We got the Punisher back in this episode, which there were leaked photos a while back, several months ago, of him in his Punisher outfit. So we knew he was going to be back, or at least people who follow with those leaked photos knew he was going to be back in the season. And he was great. I do feel like they used a little bit too much of slow-mo in the action scene with him and Daredevil in Matt's apartment. But it was still a really cool scene, and I just love the bickering between Frank Castle and Matt about their 2 very different methods on how to handle criminals. I could watch them argue about that for the end of times, honestly, and never get bored, because it is so entertaining every time they show it. And like I said, this episode really set up the next season so well, because as mayor of New York City, Fisk declared martial law, and he declared that all vigilante acts in New York City are illegal, which don't even get me started on how much I hate Sony executives and all the movie rights and everything, because Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man. And in a situation like this, where there's a blackout in the entirety of Manhattan, there's martial law declared by the mayor of New York City, and the mayor has declared vigilante acts illegal in New York City. You would think that Spider-Man, the vigilante of New York City, would show up in some capacity, especially with how No Way Home ended, and Peter devoting his life to the street level stuff. And he was even watching the police scanner for different activities throughout New York City. You would think that he would show up in some capacity here, and maybe he'll show up in season 2. I really do have high hopes. And I even thought the little quick flashback of young Matt Murdock when he's telling the story to Karen, where he's looking out the window as a kid. I actually thought that was Peter Parker, just for a quick second, especially with how that shot at the end of No Way Home had him looking out the window. It was really reminiscent of that. I thought they were harking back to that, and that's how they're gonna bring Peter in Spider-Man, but it wasn't. I knew deep down he wasn't gonna show up in this episode, obviously, But my heart and my just deep down in my mind, I wanted it to happen. I was waiting for it to happen. I was going to be so hyped. I was going to jump out of my chair and scream if it happened, but it didn't happen. But the episode was so great. We have Fisk back. We have Fisk back to his super ultra violent ways. He exploded a guy's head in his bare hands this episode. He's gained weight throughout the season. He's back to his comic book level size. I mean, I want to say back because he looked bigger than he looked even in the Netflix series. And it's kind of interesting how much they've allowed the F-bombs in the season, which, if you don't know, Frank Castle was technically the first character to drop the F-bomb in the MCU, especially now with the Netflix show completely canon to the MCU, like officially canon, because he dropped the F-bomb in season 2 of Daredevil back in 2016. There's this whole thing where Peter Quill in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 back in 2023, like he was the first one to drop the F-bomb in the MCU. But now that Daredevil is officially canon to the MCU, it's Frank Castle. And now he dropped a couple more in this episode. There are a lot of cuts in this episode and throughout this entire season where it cuts back between Fisk and Matt. And I just really love how they keep paralleling these two characters, because there's a lot in common between these two. Even though they're vastly different, especially morally, there's still a lot of parallels that can be drawn between these two characters. And I love the transitioning back and forth between the two. A lot of times in this episode, it kind of felt Nolan-esque. Don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing it to Christopher Nolan's films, but just the editing just felt very like Nolan films, to where it was a lot of like quick editing between different scenes and all that, which felt very different than the Netflix show. It's not necessarily like a complaint or anything that I have, but it definitely does feel different in this show compared to the first 3 seasons on the Netflix show. And also a quick nitpick. Towards the beginning of the episode, there is a weird song choice where they use Softly Killing Me with his song. I don't know if that's the actual name of the song, but that's what they say in the song. It just felt really off for what was happening in the scene. Overall, I am just so excited for the second season. Fingers crossed they're able to bring Spider-Man into the second season, at least for just one episode. Just for one episode. It would only make sense. It would be really weird if Spider-Man, New York's vigilante, wasn't in the second season. And it's also kind of disappointing that this is all taking place in between this whole in-game multiverse saga, because who knows how they're going to handle all that with all this taking place right now in the grand scheme of things. I hope they don't really screw with it that much. Because there are bigger things that are happening. There's so much bigger things. You're going to have Battle World taking place with Doomsday and all that, most likely, and Secret Wars. Hopefully, they're able to continue this storyline for another season or 2 at least. But we'll see moving forward.